Good evening, everyone. This is Perrysburg City Council meeting for November 15th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Mr. Fuller, Mr. Coleman, Ms. Materney,
Yes, here.
Mr. McCarthy,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Here.
Mr. Weber.
Here.
If you're able, please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, minutes of council meeting for November 1st.
So I believe everyone has received a copy of the meeting minutes from the first. If there's no objections, we'll consider those approved.
Thank you. Special reports. I'm not aware of any special reports. There's communication, citizens' concerns. We have a citizen.
Evening, Jim Hagan, 10741 Avenue Road, Perrysburg. Just a quick, I was at rec committee, expressed these concerns about the Orleans Park. And I just wanted to bring this in front of the whole council. I still have concerns about that. Number one, as I mentioned before, the smell that is down there, they're not going to get away from. And the thing that I also came to think about this week is the city has just got done with a rather large expansion down there because of the increase in growth of Perrysburg. What happens in the future if we go ahead and improve it now, and then we need to add improvements to the water treatment down there, and we don't have the space, or we're going to have to tear up stuff that we've put in to do otherwise. I just want you to be aware of that, and that's some of my concerns. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Hello, hi, Deborah Bourne, 125 East Front Street, Perrysburg, Ohio. I have concerns about what I've said before about the municipal building. I think it's a complete waste of taxpayer dollars. I hope the council will be wise tonight and not approve that and not do it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Administrative reports. Before I go into my motions, I want to give a shout out to the Garden Club that will be doing. They volunteered this week to get the decorations for downtown ready, and so we appreciate their commitment to the project and their support for downtown every year. I also want to give a special shout out to Downtown Merchants, who also contribute to some additional lighting downtown during the holidays. It was a very nice gesture on their part, and it'll make downtown look even more festive, so we appreciate their effort, so thank you. I have a number of items, a number of individuals I'd like to recommend for various city committees and boards. Julie Brendenbach will serve on the Board of Income Tax. I'd like to recommend her. Marty Pennington, serve on Citizens on PRAC. Mark Schrock, to serve on PRAC. And Robert Bendenkoff.
Believe it or not, it's Brendan Beck Corp.
Brendan Beck Corp. There's a lot of capitals there. Historic Landmarks Commission. So we appreciate them stepping forward to serve, and I recommend them for those positions.
We'll make a motion to approve that recommendation.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
And I apologize for mispronouncing. I think I got Schrock right rather than that. I apologize for that. City Administrator?
I do have one item. It's that time of year for City Council to appoint 2 of its members to the Volunteer Firefighters Dependents Fund Board. It's a 1-year term, and for 2022, it was Councilman Van Huzen and Councilman Coleman.
I'll make a motion to reappoint.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Materney,
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Mr. Coleman.
Well,
Don't have a choice in the matter.
Thank you very much. And once the firefighters nominate 2 individuals we will then convene a meeting for the 4 individuals to pick that final 5th individual for that board. That's all I have.
Okay. Finance director,
No report.
law director, do you want to save that till?
I would request an executive session for pending litigation, but it could be done at the end of city council if that would be preferred. I don't care when it's done.
Is there an action item afterwards?
No.
I'd say let's just get it done and out of the way, personally,
All right, that's fine.
unless there's any objection from anybody else up here.
One of your council members is going to be late. Do you want to put it at the end to see if he's here?
We can go ahead and get this. I think we'll might have some other conversation at the end of the meeting, so.
So you're making a motion?
Yeah, I want to make a motion to move to executive session due to pending or imminent court action. Did I get that right?
Oh, we need a second.
Second.
Roll call. We're all in favor? I think we can do it. Voice vote. All in favor? Well, let's do a roll call.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Ms. Matroni. Yes. Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
All right, we need a motion to go.
I'll make a motion to return from executive session.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Ms. Matroni. Yes. Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
All right, President of Council.
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, wait, do you have one more administrative report?
Yes, the mayor wanted me to mention that with the conclusion of this morning, that all of our staff has gone through a 4-hour seminar training on implicit bias, with the exception of the fire division, who is holding that same training December 8th and 9th. So we are keeping up to speed on that, and we're going to continue to train on that and educate ourselves. Any additional words, Mayor?
Nope. President of Council.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I just have to say is go BG tonight. So that's the end of the report.
Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sit back and relax. I have a lot to read here. The Finance and Economic Development Committee met on November 8th at 5:30, and all members were present. All committee members were present. Also present were Bridget Cabot, City Administrator, Kate Sandretto, Law Director, Amber Rathburn, Finance Director, Kayla Trego, Deputy Finance Director, China Pfeiffer, Prosecutor, and Brody Walters happened to be in there, Planning and Zoning Administrator. There were no objections to the minutes of October 11th meeting. They were approved. Julie Bredenbeck Corp., 409 East Front Street, has applied to fill a vacancy on the Board of Income Tax Review. Ms. Sandretto heads this committee and stated that it is for any individual who has an objection to their city income taxes reviewed by the tax commissioner. I added that she has an outstanding resume and thanked both her and her husband, who was recently appointed to HLC, for stepping up to volunteer. There being no objections, the committee recommended 3-0 to appoint Ms. Bredenbeck Corp. to fill a vacancy. For the dental insurance and health insurance 2023, Matt Holzmer, employee benefit consultant of Savage and Associates, stated that he likes how United Healthcare is running. He stated that the overall increase is 0.3%. Mr. Holzmer stated that they get good reporting from them and that the service is good. Mr. Holzmer added that they got Delta Dental to agree to a 24-month rate with no increase starting January 1st. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend both dental and health insurance for 2023. Approval of code updates. Ms. Rampert stated that this is a housekeeping item and that every year council passes legislation that will allow Walter Drain to print new pages for the books and update the code on the website. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend this to City Council. Approval of the then and now purchases. Ms. Rampert stated that she is requesting approval of then and nows for a total of $61,017.67. Ms. Sandretto explained that the Department of Public Utilities hires an environmental attorney to deal with the EPA. Mr. Smith asked about the discharge fee from the Ohio EPA and if it is for an overflow event. Ms. Rathburn explained that it is an annual charge, and Ms. Cabot added that it is not specific to overflows. Committee agreed 3-0 to recommend this to City Council. For the internet auction for sale of surplus property, Ms. Radburn stated that this is an item that ORC requires us to pass legislation each year stating we will use internet auction to dispose of our surplus items. Mr. McCarthy asked about selling property and if it comes to the City Council for approval. Ms. Cabot stated that if the current value is over $1,000, it does come to the Finance Committee. Committee agreed 3-0 to recommend this on the Council. The fees charged by city promoters, to promoters of special events by the city. Ms. Cabot has compiled a list of what events were charged fees in the last several years and will share those with the committee members. I asked if it is the police chief who decides how many officers are required for special events or they're requested by the event holder. Ms. Cabot stated that the FBI puts out recommendations for higher profile events or events with large attendance of people, and Chief Jones uses those recommendations. Mr. Smith added that he's in meeting with Adam Cassie, Keep Toledo, Lucas County Beautiful on November 9th and wants to get more information on how that program works and how it could be implemented in Perrysburg or Wood County. Mr. McCarthy asked about the CBB and the farmers market. Ms. Cabot stated that she will be meeting with Christine Best regarding the farmers market layout for 2023. I stated that it was already in the CBB's budget for next year, but they want to start looking at an exit strategy or to work with some other entities to help offset the huge time commitment for the director. Mr. McCarthy asked if Chief Jones could come to the next Finance Committee meeting, adding that it might be helpful if he were there. The audit contract for 2022, Ms. Radburn explained that the Auditor of State bid for the audit for 2021 through 2025, and this contract is for the 2022 audit, which they are expecting to be a single audit. Ms. Radburn stated that the cost is exactly the same as it was for 2021. The committee agreed 3-0 to recommend that on the council. Discussions of the 2023 budget. Earlier in the evening, Ms. Pfeiffer stated that there were no major changes from last year in the prosecutor's budget, and that the biggest changes were items being recategorized. Ms. Pfeiffer added that the Westlaw charges will be split 3 ways between herself, Ms. Sandretto, and the judge. I asked if all departments were asked to trim and cut back this year, and Ms. Cabot stated that all general fund departments were asked, but not all were able to do so. Later in the evening, Ms. Andretto explained that legislation will be required for any donations that City Council wishes to continue with, such as the $20,000 for the Heights or any other funds for the public purpose. Mr. Smith asked about additional employees that they are looking to hire next year. Ms. Strago stated that there is a staff accountant in finance and that they have added to the budget. Ms. Cabot added that the court is looking for an additional bailiff. Police is looking to promote 3 patrol officers to sergeants, but not to backfill, as well as placeholders for deputy city administrator and urban forester. Mr. Smith requested to get a copy of all the contracts for the 2021 and 2022 with our economic consultant, Reveille. Ms. Cabot stated that she can provide copies of the contracts as well as invoicing because it has more specific information on it. I asked about any major changes. Ms. Cabot stated that most items were combined or revolve around the PIO. Mr. Smith asked about updates or signage changes to the entrances to the city. Ms. Cabot stated that signs would be in the capital budget. She added that the design is complete, but they are running into timing and supply issues that far exceed the budget that they have at this time. Ms. Andretto stated that there were no significant changes to her budget. Ms. Andretto stated that the biggest cost to the law department is outside legal fees, and that anytime she files anything with the court, it costs the city money. Mr. Smith requested copies of the 2021 and 2022 outside legal invoices. Ms. Andretto stated that she will send them to the committee under attorney-client privilege. Ms. Strago stated that there are not any big changes for the finance department. She noted that they added training and travel for a yearly conference for the new finance system in Columbus next year. Mr. Smith questioned about additional cyber liability insurance. Ms. Radburn stated that they did reach out to Highland and she will follow up with them. Ms. Cabot stated that the IT budget is pretty stable and as the other budgets are. She added that they had budgeted for a 4th position they were requesting, which has been pulled out of the budget as a balancing measure and will be added back during the amended budget if it allows. The finance director's report for the expenditures greater than $5,000. Mr. McCarthy asked about the payment to DGL Consulting. Ms. Radburn explained that it was for the Maumee Western Reserve traffic study. Mr. McCarthy also asked about Trojan Technologies. This cabinet explained that it was for the wastewater treatment plant. I asked about the GPD group services for the fort. Ms. Radburn explained that it was short for the Fort Meigs Ditch Project and multi-use path. Health Insurance Fund, Ms. Radburn stated that the fund balance is currently $1.2 million. She added that the great renewal that they did get, there will not be any increase in the city or employee premiums for 2023. In other business, Ms. Radburn explained some requested budget adjustments, including jobs grants, which were higher than anticipated by about $95,000, and income tax refunds, which they are requesting an increase of $900,000 for because tax finally received an answer from the state for the large payment received earlier in the year, of which about $840,000 will be refunded. Ms. Radburn explained that Refuse has 2 requests because they have had a lot of vehicle repairs this year. They're asking for $15,000 for both parts and labor of vehicle repairs. Ms. Radburn stated that the last 2 requests are for water and sewer materials because they have had a lot of purchases this year and also have seen an increase in pricing for a lot of their supplies. I stated that one of the 2 houses being torn down next door is the Leland house, and that the Leland family is hoping to recover some interior doors and they will go through the process of allowing for the donation of them that we spoke of earlier. Incidentally, those 2 structures have been vacant for some time now and will soon come down for safety measures and future planning. So there's no further business. The meeting adjourned at 6:55 p.m. And bear with me, I have 9 pieces of legislation to introduce. If there are no objections, I'll combine some of them into 4 readings to make it a little less painful.
Meeting was painful for Amber.
Yes, right. Okay. I would like to introduce resolutions 91, 93, and 96, 2022, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for their readings by number and title only and to dispense with the 2nd and 3rd readings.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Ms. Matroni. Yes. Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Just what were the,
91, 93, and 96.
sorry, I'm making sure I'm, yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolution 91, 2022, authorizing an agreement with Delta Dental for the provision of dental insurance coverage for the city of Perrysburg for the period of January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2024. Resolution 93, 2022, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Clark Schaefer Hackett Business Advisors not to exceed $31,600 for the 2022 audit. Resolution 96, 2022, a resolution declaring the intent and authorizing the sale of municipal-owned personal property which is not needed for public use or is obsolete or unfit for use for which it was acquired during the calendar year 2023 by internet auction.
I move that resolutions 91, 93, and 96, 2022 be passed.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Ms. Matroni.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes. I would like to introduce resolutions 92, 94, and 95, 2022, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for their readings by number and title only and to dispense with the 2nd and 3rd readings.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Ms. Matroni. Yes. Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Resolution 92, 2022, a resolution authorizing city health insurance coverage administration agreements through United Healthcare Benefit Administrators and related entities and declaring an emergency. Resolution 94, 2022, a resolution to approve bid and now certificates in the amount of $61,017.67 as attached in Exhibit A for the city of Perrysburg and declaring an emergency. Resolution 95, 2022, a resolution declaring interior doors located at 213 West Indiana Avenue, Perrysburg, Ohio, no longer needed for public use or unfit for public service.
I move that resolutions 92, 94, and 95-2022 be passed as emergency measures.
Second?
Discussion. Roll call.
Ms. Matroni. Yes. Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
I would like to introduce ordinances 59 and 60 of 2022, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for their readings by number and title only, and dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni? Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ordinance 59, 2022, and ordinance amending ordinance 54, 2021, previously amended by ordinance 4, 2022, 8, 2022, 43, 2022, 53, 2022, and amended appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures for the year ending December 31st, 2022, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 60, 2022, to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances and parts of the various components of the Code of Codified Ordinances to provide for the adoption and publication of new matter in the updated and revised codified ordinances, to repeal ordinances in conflict therewith from 2021 and declaring an emergency.
I move that ordinances 59 and 60, 2022, be passed as emergency measures.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
And finally, I would like to introduce ordinance 56, 2022, and move that the rules be suspended to allow for its second reading by number and title only.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Do we have to vote for the second reading?
This is
No, we're just reading. Yeah, you didn't really have to read it. I was just going to let you read it.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Ordinance 56, 2022, making appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Perrysburg, Wood County, Ohio, for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023,
No.
and declaring an emergency.
I'll take that back. We did have a motion and a
We have a
second,
motion.
so-
I moved that the rules be suspended to allow for its second reading by number and
Okay,
title
my
only.
apologies.
still have to do that all.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll say yes.
Okay, after Mr. Smith, Mr. Van Huzen,
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Sorry to get everything thrown off.
Thanks for throwing out the
Amber, just
motion.
ignore us.
Do we want to read it again or no? Do we all do that?
I think we're all right with that.
Thank you very
I don't
much.
know if anybody has any comments on it, but at this point, but
No discussion? Okay. All right, then the next Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December 13th at 5:30 p.m. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. If you do have any questions about the budget, please let us know before the next meeting, because it will be for passage next week. Is that right?
Yes, and yes, that'll be passed on the December 6th, I believe, is the,
Correct, that's the goal.
All right, thank you. Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do not have a report. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday, the 22nd, November, at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Recreation Committee.
thank you, Mayor. I'm trying to get organized here. Give me a second. We got a lot of ordinances and paper everywhere, if you don't mind. So we did have a meeting. We held that on November 8th. We were called to order at 7:02 p.m. because of the meeting prior to went a little over. Not going to name any names on that. We had myself present as well as Mr. Coolman, committee member. Mr. Van Huzen was not able to be in attendance. Also present was Ms. Cabot, city administrator, Ms. Andretto, law director, Ms. Rathburn, finance director, and Mr. Walters, planning and zoning administrator. We did have city concern with Jeff Condon coming in to mention about Al Rava and having the court stand down for him. Just as a quick update, if you don't mind, Ms. Cabot, how things are progressing with that.
We spoke again earlier this week, and we're trying to gather some information that Jeff did not have available to him. We've reached out to the schools, both Brooke Price and Chuck Dago, to try and gather that information, as well as he's in contact with his sister, who's also looking for that missing information.
And then we also have Ms. Bourne come up in support of having Mr. Rava be dedicated for the tennis courts with a recommendation to sign people black and gold. We did have the conversation about the appointments for PrAC. I will mention one of them was a BG grad, one worked for University of Toledo, so one was a little easier to prove than the other given tonight. We had a playground equipment update. Mr. Smith and myself was made aware yesterday that the new playgrounds, yesterday as in November 7th, that will not be put in until the spring as the temperatures have become too cold to pour rubber for the playgrounds. Ms. Cabot stated that the parts are starting to come in, and they will work over the winter to schedule the parts out with the manufacturer. There is a contractual deadline to have the parts all installed by end of June of 2023. Ms. Andretto stated that the contractor suggested having a certified playground safety inspector inspect the current playgrounds to be sure they are safe for donating. She stated that it is a little bit about liability, but mostly about the safety of children. The contractor would need to have a conversation with whoever has taken the playground equipment out to be sure it is removed properly and that the holes that are left are filled properly. The contractors do not want to be responsible for taking it down to the standard required to remove for donation. Mr. Smith stated he is concerned about if we do not think it is safe for donation, how is it safe for children to play now? J&J Nielsen, also representing Missions International America, the city contractor is happy to meet with the Nielsens to talk through what needs to happen regarding removal. And Mr. Coolman would like to gift it with a waiver, and Mission International America would be responsible for removal and inspection. Ms. Nielsen stated that it would be sent to Haiti, which is not covered by any of the liability laws that we have in the United States. Ms. Andretto stated that we have to go back to the contractor to make sure they're comfortable with the manner that the city council like this handled. Mr. Coolman and Mr. Smith agreed that they want to go the route of the waiver and that the administration should connect the contractor with the Nielsens. Erin Bilski, who is part of the committee that built Fort Imagination in 1997, most of the funds raised on their own. She stated that they did it all themselves with much of the community behind it. Ms. Bilski questioned why we would expect it to donate it. She stated that it's hard for them to watch the removal, and she asked about the bricks that were there, the bricks there that were donated. Mr. Smith stated that they had requested to keep the bricks there and that this project is a legacy of what they had accomplished 25 years ago. Tim Brockrader from the Edge Group made a presentation regarding the Orleans Park Master Plan. And Mr. Brockrader stated that there have been several stakeholder meetings with people from the city of Perrysburg, different departments within the city, and outside groups, including the Toledo Zoo and Toledo Metro Parks. The mayor wants this plan to be feasible and doable in smaller pieces. So Mr. Brockrader reviewed some highlights of the plan, including natural focused playground, pavilion space for versatile rental, pedestrian access to the wetlands area, ADA accessibility to a bird lookout spot, and adventure course with pump track or skate park, and cleaning up the woodland edge. Mr. Brockrader stated that this is doable over time, that there is a lot of potential funding out there to help facilitate this, and he went over some additional options on how to move that forward. Justin LeCompte spoke to our group as well. He grew up in Perrysburg and has been skateboarding for 20 years, and there's a lack of quality skate parks in Northwest Ohio and including Southeast Michigan. Mr. LeCompte stated that skateboarding is now an Olympic sport and that they do not have a proper practice facility in Northwest Ohio. He shared a document and designs such as construction sizes of other municipalities. Scott Tutak owns a skateboard shop here locally. Mr. Tutak shared that the Tony Hawk Foundation has quite a bit of funding available, and for skate parks in Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Farmington Hills, the foundation matched half of the budget for the parks. Mr. Coolman wanted to clarify the purpose here today. Mr. Tutak stated that we need a skate park. Many skate parks can be built in tandem with a pump track, and Mr. Smith appreciates both Scott and Justin for coming out and would like to see a skate park to be included as a listed item in conjunction with the pump track. Mr. Coolman likes to focus on sustainability revenue generation. Mr. Brockrader stated that part of the boat storage facility could have a conference or a meeting space. Ms. Cabot stated that the outdoor shelters are very often booked out during the summer. Mr. Coolman asked about having more open pavilions or shelter houses. Mr. Brockrader stated that there is room to add more open-air shelter houses throughout the park. Mr. Smith refers to the plan, mentions that a dog park could be a fit in the future programmable area. And Mr. Coolman does not want the dog park to be the focus of everything that they talk about. So that is why the Plan and Zoning Committee recommended to take out the dog park for now. Mr. Coolman noted that he would like to explore lighting some of these paths. Mr. Brockrader stated that the lighting could be some sort of art to create some pleasant interest. Judy Hagan expressed some concerns about the master plan. She stated the pump track area is not not stable enough for a skate park, and that the ice flow could wipe out a lot of things within the park. She knows the area used to be the city dump, and that there could be cost impact to what is happening. The same question why they are building a boathouse with city funds for a high school rowing team. Mr. Smith responded that nothing has been decided about how things will be paid, and that there will be conversations eventually regarding donations or grant opportunities. Mr. Smith also added that this is conceptual design, and items and location within the park can change based off engineering surveys, as that is not part of this plan. Mr. Coolman stated that the crew storage is in addition to the kayak storage, and that people would rent spaces like they do now. Ms. Hagan is also concerned with having artwork near the river and that it could be destroyed by the ice flows. Jim Hagan, who we heard here this evening, said his main concern with the water treatment facility is the smell, and that is a great plan, but just the wrong location for it. Mr. Hagan suggested Code Court with an ice pavilion and the woods. Todd French, who is a member of PrAC, also was in attendance, and he said he is not there to represent PrAC, but has his own concerns about the road access and pungent smell. He loves phase 1 of connecting underneath the bridge. He stated that by removing the trees, they would be removing the bird habitats and erasing the sound barrier between the road and green space. Mr. France asked if there are examples of other communities that have done something near a similar area. Mr. Walter stated that this area is already being utilized and with inadequate construction. He added that the challenges are not a reason to not do anything. Mr. Smith said this is a good plan to move forward and that they will have more conversations regarding funding. We did have an item that we tabled at the next meeting. We then jumped over to discussion about donation. Mr. Smith said that he's been looking at what other communities and park systems have been doing in regards to donations. He would like to encourage more donations and wants to create an easier access point for donations to occur. Ms. Rathburn stated that she's looked at foundations in the area for the Toledo Metro Parks in the city of Bowling Green. And she stated they are separate legal entities, so the first step would be to get volunteers and a board of directors together. If the city accepts donation, legislation is necessary. Mr. Smith stated his personal goal is to make it easier for donations to occur and to bring in both public and private investments into our park system. We proceed on the discussion of the 2023 budget. Ms. Cabot reviewed the department's budget that fall under the recreation with the committee members. Ms. Cabot stated that the largest item is mosquito spray. Mr. Smith asked about the toxicity level to people. Ms. Cabot will get them the information on mosquitoes and spray. Mr. Kuhlman asked about the weed control toxicity. Mr. Smith requested some better signage when playgrounds are being sprayed for weed control. Ms. Cabot stated that they are working on it, but that some people will not voluntarily comply regardless. Ms. Cabot added that the screens in the budget are actually windscreens for Rotary Park pickleball courts. Mr. Smith asked about the $85,000 increase in salary side from last year to this year. Ms. Cabot stated that it is for a wage increase in addition to urban forester. Ms. Cabot stated they have the rec director scheduled to come in after the first year to give an overview of what the program will look like for 2023. It was suggested continuing recreation programs in the fall and winter. Ms. Cabot stated that there would be nobody to put the program on since it is mostly staffed with school teachers and high school students. Mr. Smith stated that his long-term goal is to have someone that we may have as a permanent year-long position as a recreation director. There being no further business, we adjourned at 8:43 p.m. With that, I do not believe I have anything else to vote on today. So our next scheduled meeting is currently scheduled for December 13th at 6:30 p.m. I don't know if there's any items coming from administration at this time. Or anything
At this time, we have the information regarding athletic tournaments that we have
Okay.
tabled to the next meeting, and at that moment in time, that's all we have.
Okay. What I may do if there's no objection from our community members is just plan on canceling the December meeting if that's the only item. We can push that back till January. There's no urgent need for that one, so.
I will stay in contact with you.
Okay. Thank you.
One note about the master plan for Orleans Park. I remember when Tim Lockbrader was presenting that, and to answer Mr. Hagan's concern, they did have quite a big area for expansion of the wastewater treatment plant. I remember seeing that in that master plan. So, something to...
Actually, I talked to Jim on our way out for executive session and told him that, so.
Oh, all right.
I have a quick question.
Pardon? Yes, go on.
The windscreens, they're not for city park, but
They're not for municipal park, they're for Rotary Parks pickleball courts.
did they ever get the ones from municipal?
We have not received them yet.
Okay, but we paid,
We've ordered them.
that's all I want to know. I just want clarification. Thank you.
Nothing further for recreation.
All right, very good, thank you. Planning and zoning?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We met on November 2nd, and present were myself, Corey Coleman, Barry Van Hoosen, and also present was Brody Walters, our planning and zoning administrator. The minutes of the October 19 meeting were approved. We've already appointed Robert Bredenbeck for landmarks, so we can move on to other business, which was the 2023 budget. Mr. Walter noted that under other services, he had not originally included the zoning code update in order to balance the budget. He stated that the mayor requested that it go back into the budget, and so it is there. Mr. Van Hoosen asked about the number of cars for the department, and Brody told us they were 3 hybrid Ford Escapes. They have been purchased, and they were supposed to start the manufacturing on October 25th. I asked if the zoning code update will include a review of the historic district ordinance, and Mr. Walters responded that it certainly should. Mr. Coleman stated that it would be great if Landmarks was made aware of the review and then see what suggestions they might have. Mr. Van Hoosen asked how the rewrite will work and if a firm would be hired. And Brody stated that more than likely that is what will happen, and then it will be restructured based on community preferences. Mr. Coleman asked if there's anything that Mr. Walters foresees the office needing in a potential amended budget. Mr. Walters pointed to the civil contracts line item, which he said is used for quality of life type things that they can design and plan in-house. And he appreciates their ability to do that. I told Brody to think about it further for the amended budget, and if that item or other items needed some supplementation, to let the committee know. No further business, we adjourned at 6:07 p.m. We have 2 ordinances, unless both of them subject to public hearing at council, so unless there's an objection, I'd introduce them together. I don't see any. I would then like to introduce ordinances 61 and 62 2022, and move the rules be suspended to allow for the reading by number and title only, and to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ordinance 61, 2022, accepting the petition of 5 Points Investment LLC, agent Stephen R. Mitchell for annexation into the city. Ordinance 62, 2022, amending the zoning map of the city of Harrisburg, Wood County, Ohio, to permanent zoning regarding the Fusinski annexation.
I would then move that ordinances 61 and 62 2022 be passed.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Van Hoosen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
End of report. We meet again on December 7th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you. Personnel Committee.
I have no report today. Next meeting is November 22nd at 5 p.m. Do we have any agenda items on that?
We just have those standing items that you have asked us to carry forward. One is the parental leave pending the outcome at the state level, and the other is the vacant position of administration.
Okay, if those are the only 2 items, I might anticipate we may cancel that one for this month since it's Thanksgiving. So I'll follow up with that.
I will stay in contact with you as well.
All right, sounds good. Nothing further.
Thank you. Public Utilities.
She's not here at the moment. I can jump in for him. I actually just got a text message. He's on his way right now, so he'll be coming in right at the tail end of the meeting. I don't think that there is anything to report at this time, and the next scheduled meeting actually was canceled, which would have been November 23rd at 6:30 p.m. So the next one will be December 21st at 6:30 p.m.
I'm sorry, I think we actually, oh no, I'm sorry, that's service independent.
No, that's all right.
Totally.
So that is the end of the public utilities report.
Thank you. Public or service.
I have no report, but I do have 2 resolutions. The first one is, I would like to introduce Resolution 97-2022 and move the rules to be suspended, allow for its reading by title and number only. Second, third reading.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Hoosen?
Yes.
Resolution 97, 2022, a resolution awarding a bid and agreement to North Branch Nursery Inc., and in the amount of $102,522 for street trees for 2022 and declaring an emergency.
I move that resolution 97-2022 be passed as emergency fund.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
I'm gonna abstain.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Second resolution is 82. I'd like to introduce resolution 82-2022 and the rules be suspended allowed for first reading by number and title only.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Ms. Matroni?
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Resolution 82, 2022, accepting the proposal and authorizing an agreement with the Collaborative Inc. in an amount not to exceed $155,000 for the first phase of the new municipal building project and declaring an emergency.
Discussion.
She needs to move.
Yes.
I move that resolution 82-2022 be passed.
Discussion.
We need a second.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, do we have a second? No, we have a motion, we need a second. Sorry.
Oh, second. Sorry.
Discussion.
Go ahead.
If you want to start, go ahead. I'm sure you might
I
have
thought you
some.
said wait a second.
I just have a question, but I might. So Bridget, the shelf life on phase one, I believe you provide me up to 10 years
Yes,
with minor changes potentially.
that is the answer of the city engineer.
Okay, and if we had minor changes, what's the anticipated cost to add that to the conceptual part? Because this contract's
At a
$155,000.
future point.
Yeah.
To kind of like blow the dust off of it and
Yes.
refresh it. That I cannot answer. It's going to be market rate at that period, at that moment in time.
Is it safe to say it's significantly less?
Oh,
Not
yes,
full
yes,
contract?
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because we're talking about, in the conversations I've had with the city engineer, it's more about the numbers of staffing. If that were to change dramatically one way or the other, either less or more, that's really what would impact maybe moving some boxes within a conceptual plan. Is really what he's thinking would be the only thing that would need to be refreshed.
I guess I'll just make a statement on this. I very much appreciate the administration taking the time and the department heads to give a tour of the, what I would say a thorough tour of the facility. I'm sorry, I kind of had to step out a little early on that. But it was eye-opening. It looks like there is potential to increase our efficiency and productivity if the facility is newer and more accommodating to what we're trying to accomplish between the departments. I will say I am hesitant to say you're going to have my support moving past phase one, but knowing that it has a significant shelf life and there is a need, and we're doing our due diligence by saying, hey, this is a need, this is something that's up and coming. I think it is worthwhile pursuing now. I appreciate the answers that were given in the last 24 hours to some emails. But I would appreciate in the future a little bit more of a budgetary impact on big projects, because right now we have several of them that are coming down the pipeline, and I just want to be on the same page so we know what the long-term goals of the city are and how it affects all of our budgets moving forward. So, but I am confident we're going to be on the same page, I guess, moving forward. So that's a little bit I'm accepting responsibility on my end of asking those questions. I should ask those questions sooner. So this will be getting my support tonight. But I am skeptical with some of the projects we have coming up and the long-term budgetary impacts, and I look forward to exploring that a little bit more so that we know it's absolutely feasible if we move on to phase 1, part B.
I jotted down a couple of notes if I can.
That's good.
If you're going down the line, that's fine.
That's good.
That's fine. Go ahead, John.
All right, that's not a problem. I'll just kind of echo more what Corey said. Is I I think that this is a good part. We need to find out what we need to do. The one question that I have on one of the answers is we're not certain who we want to put in here until we find out what departments we're combining, until we find out public utilities. How is these two projects these designs going to coincide?
They're tracking somewhat similar timelines, or they will be tracking somewhat similar timelines. The utilities department, in conjunction with the city engineer, has already had a kickoff meeting regarding that particular facility and had essentially an 8-day work session, or 8-hour work session. And they understand that there was potential consideration for doing something at this location as well. So they'll be working hand in hand with this entity as well as the one with utilities, and our city engineer will make sure that both entities are getting the proper information to properly size both buildings.
So that was one of my concerns. If we're not certain who's going to go into what happens if we decide public utilities want to go back
And
to
we've
this
been
weekend?
having consistent internal discussions regarding the utilities building in particular, since that has already passed city council.
Okay. No, and because I'm comfortable moving forward with this phase one. I would like to, if we can, as soon as we get through phase one, and we'll look at you, Amber, on this, or whoever else we need to on this, is to get a better fiscal impact on how this is going to happen moving forward. I am concerned if every report that we're reading, we're moving into a recession. If depending on who you're asking, if we're already there somewhere coming to it, on how that's going to impact the budget of the city moving forward, especially when I believe, if memory serves me correct, when we were having the budget conversation initially, there was conversation of a $2 million shortfall. I don't want this to end up, my concern is if we do this too quickly, then we're going to end up biting off more than we chew. But if we get the design, knowing what the shelf life is going to be, this gives us the ability to know what the next steps are going to be and how to prepare for it and plan for it. So,
Once we have an estimate, it will be easier to analyze and get you exact figures.
Okay, thanks, Ed. And I appreciate it. I know we're in a rising rate environment, so those things could potentially change as well. Thank you.
Okay, I want to share some things that I've learned about this building, and it, like Corey said, it was very eye-opening. And I mean, anyone that doesn't believe we need a new municipal building hasn't taken a close look at this one. I have, along with a few others up here. I've been in the attic and I've been in the basement. And what was once a state-of-the-art facility in 1965 with its asbestos pipe insulation and floor tile does not meet the current standards for the quality and safe environment for employees and visitors, especially anyone with physical challenges. This building was never designed for one computer cable, much less the miles of cables that are needed for today's technology. In fact, there are some parts of the building that are inaccessible to even get cabling to. There are closets being used for offices, bathroom sinks being used as kitchen sinks, space heaters and portable fans to make up for the HVAC systems that are nearing the end of their life. And there's not a single window that does not need replacement in this building. The tax department, which is housed in the basement, has limited egress in the event of a fire. The building that once stood on this corner collapsed from the top down. This one seems to be bursting at the seams. I kind of like throwing that one in there. The police division is also in need for expansion. And as the city grows, the facilities we need to service it need to grow as well. So in today's economic environment, this may not be the best time to spend millions of dollars on a new facility, and there may be other projects with a higher priority, but it would be irresponsible of us not to at least have a plan in place for when the time is right to expand. I've been told this plan will have a shelf life, and there's no doubt the cost we endure today may be considerably less than it will a year or two from now if we don't go forward with this phase one. So it makes sense to me to research what we need here and use that information to budget and plan for the future. Because obviously that wasn't done back in 1965. Otherwise they would have put a second story in here.
Jan, anything?
I didn't take the tour, but I was well aware of the limitations of this building from the time I came on council. I will say we should potentially explore infrastructure funds. If Washington local can get 2 high school buildings built, why can't we get some other funds and try to?
I agree, but I will also tell you why they got it. We're in a little different
I know.
Anybody else don't have anything?
No, I think the rest of you all put it very well. I have nothing to add, and I support the ordinance.
And I supported it before, and I still do.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Coleman,
Excuse me,
Yeah, no,
before we
yeah.
do we need to read, because he wasn't here for the original role?
No, he's sorry. I mean, he said attendance now.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I don't know if he has anything he wants to headline.
Want to add we're talking about the municipal building project. I mean, everybody's kind of already talked about it. You have something you want to add?
Just briefly, and my apologies for staying late. I know initially I was very reluctant. I know this is a very large ticket item in the long run. But I do feel that we should proceed forward with this. Something I don't take very lightly, the safety of the employees here and also our residents and guests that we have in the building. So I do believe it would be irresponsible to not look at something to upgrade for the future in this regard. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad you're here. Roll call, don't say his name first.
Mr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Matroni.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next meeting has been moved to December 7th. Is it 6 or 6:30? Is that why the double went out?
It should be at December 7th at 6:30.
That's why the double went out. So if we can
And
get
we'll
that
make sure that everybody's council calendars are correct tomorrow.
Thank you. Any other business for council?
Yes, I have two things. First, PG's up 14-0.
Good.
So I just want to let everyone know.
That's what I would have said.
There's 2 minutes in the first quarter, so it's a nice start for the game. Secondly, I actually would like to make a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or investigation or charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual.
Second.
Discussion, roll call?
Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes.
Ms. Matroni.
Yes.
Mr. McCarthy.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Van Huzen.
Yes.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
So we'll head down.
Jonathan,
About 50 hours a week to go.
You want to?
I'm gonna leave, is that okay?
Don't see any reason that you'd have to stay for at this point, because we'll be just adjourning it after we come back from this.